Hi, this is Bob Samuels, founder of TechConnectr. TechConnectr is a marketplace and campaign management platform of best-of-breed, account-based marketing lead generation solutions. We are partnering with SiriusDecisions to bring you wisdom from leading account-based marketing thought leaders. To that end, I'm happy to introduce you to Jay Gaines, Chief Marketing Officer and Analyst for SiriusDecisions. Jay's background in both sales and marketing, and as an advisor and practitioner, puts him in a wonderful position to share best practice account-based marketing ideas and solutions. Jay, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Bob. Thanks for inviting me to participate.
Well, this is wonderful. You're adding great value to what we're doing, which is talking to some of the true experts in ABM, and it's delightful to have you. So,
thank you.
Could you give the audience a little bit of background about where you've been in this world and where ABM has kind of touched you along the way?
Sure, happy to. So I've been in B2B sales and marketing pretty much my entire career. I started for about 7 years on the sales side, and this was before ABM was a thing. But it's interesting because even in my first job, I started in inside sales and went to field sales, became a field sales manager before I moved over to the marketing side. But the nature of my sales jobs were very much account focused. I was focused on enterprise corporate accounts and embedded in just 3 accounts through most of that time. So it was very much an account-based approach. So, one of my beliefs about ABM is that it's nothing necessarily new, but it is new in how we're doing it for sure. So from there, I moved into marketing, and my first job was actually to help a marketing organization better align with the B2B sales organization. So I did that for quite some time. But throughout my career, I've run all kinds of marketing functions, communications, field marketing, global teams. I've had a couple CMO gigs, but over the last 9 years, which is the longest I've been at any company, I've been at SiriusDecisions. And I joined Sirius as an analyst in the early days here. I think I was the 22nd employee. And I spent about 3 years running our demand creation service, actually 4 years doing that, helping people do everything demand related, right? So all the processes, approaches, programs, technology, sales and marketing alignment, all of that good stuff. And then I spent about 4 years leading our marketing executive services, which is services for chief marketing officers and other very senior marketing leaders with a broad scope of responsibility, like you think about regional heads of marketing. And then about 2.5 years ago, the founders here asked me to become CMO at Sirius, which has been a lot of fun. I've got to tell you, we've got well over 100 marketing analysts and consultants here, so I've got amazing resources at my fingertips, a lot of research, and a great team under me. And throughout my time at Sirius, that's where I really dug into ABM. Leading the demand services was really at the dawn of modern account-based marketing. So I got to do a lot of work with our clients who are on the bleeding edge and really learning about how to make this work in the right way and in a modern way. And then, of course, when I moved over to the executive services, working more with chief marketing officers, I would say that's in the top 3 or 4 things on most CMOs' list in terms of what they needed to understand and in many cases implement and improve. So did a lot of work with them as well that was both very strategic in terms of how to kind of build a case for it within the business, how to build the capability in their teams, but also going much deeper into actual execution, program development, measurement, that kind of thing. And of course, we here at SiriusDecisions, now that I'm back into a practitioner role, we do quite a lot of account-based marketing ourselves. We have a set of strategic accounts and large enterprise accounts where we apply ABM approaches that have worked out really well for us too.
Wonderful. I was going to ask you if you drink your own champagne.
Well, we do. Yeah, I couldn't do anything but drink our own champagne.
It's a wonderful thing. Yeah, your background and your exposure is just so phenomenal. I'm very jealous. So you work with very sharp marketers, both the advisors and your clients, and cutting edge, and you have the background of the sales side too. which is really important. And as you said, this whole ABM thing, it's not a new thing. It's just it's named accounts, it's target accounts, but we're having them look. We're putting a little more technology around the touches. So it's a wonderful background you have. I'm delighted.
Well, thank you.
You're here. So so one of the things I look forward to is the the SiriusDecisions Summit. It's next month. It's around the corner. Can you give a little bit of highlights of what's going to be happening there and some of the folks and some of the ideas that'll be popping up around ABM and so forth?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So our US Summit is our flagship event of the year. This will be my 10th one that I'll be at, and it's an all-in affair for us. Pretty much the entire company goes. We attract about 5,000 delegates and sponsors to the event, and it's funny. I joke about this all the time. It's almost like a cult-like experience. I mean, you get a group that size of people who are so passionate about all things B2B marketing, sales, product, and people really get into it. So it's kind of my favorite time of year. And we pretty much work on it and plan for it year round. We also have versions of the event in EMEA, as well as one in Asia Pacific and a whole series of other events. But the big thing this year that we're very focused on is what we call kind of aligning and optimizing the revenue engine for B2B. So that's a theme of the conference. And really what we focus on there is how do companies achieve high performance by making sure that marketing, sales, and product management and development are kind of well aligned, very, very focused on their roles, have kind of a common understanding of their goals, but also their audiences, to really drive profitable revenue growth within businesses. So that's the overall theme, and the specific theme is achieving high performance by aligning the B2B revenue engine. And within that, as you can imagine, there's going to be a really heavy focus on account-based marketing. We have a dedicated track on it. One of our main stage keynotes is on what we're seeing happening with account-based marketing. One of our services, we have one of our larger services, is entirely focused on account-based marketing and really more broadly, account-based go-to-market strategies. So as part of that track within the summit, we're going to have what we call the foundations of account-based marketing, really how to assess your readiness and your ability to start going to market in an account-based way that's going to be effective, right? Do you have the right knowledge, the right skill sets and people in place? It's a little bit about technology, but we don't really consider technology to be foundational here. It's something that you add on once you get the people in the process right. And what's your understanding of account-based marketing? How is it going to be defined within your business? Because as you know, there's a lot of different definitions. We also talk about the issues around sales and marketing alignment, because really what makes account-based marketing work are those two functions working very effectively together. That's going to be a session within that track. We're going to have sessions around applying agile principles to account-based marketing, measurement of account-based marketing, and a whole lot more. There's one called high performance account-based marketing, and that's really our view across our client base. Because one of the things we do here at Sirius is we're constantly measuring and benchmarking our clients and looking at the results that they're driving and how efficient they are in driving those results. So we're able to identify very high performing organizations. And it's really going to be our view across our most high-performing clients who are doing ABM and what they're doing that's causing them to have those great results. And then we're going to have a future vision session as well, which is, hey, where do we think account-based marketing is going over the next 5 years, and why is it going there, and what's the impact going to be on skill sets, organizations, technology, and investment?
Wonderful. I always circle the event on my calendar. It's a terrific event and gets better every year. So I look forward to it. So I know you have a nice focus on emerging technologies. I know you said, and I believe it, that technology isn't the answer necessarily. But if you don't have the foundation, if you don't have the organizational foundation, if you don't have the right procedures and structure and so forth. But, what kind of emerging technology are you seeing on the ABM side?
So, that's a good question. And, it's an interesting one because As you know, as everybody knows, there's been this kind of massive explosion of kind of marketing technology in general, but especially in the ABM space. And I mean that. I mean more than any other space. That's where we've seen a huge explosion. And one of the things that we do here at Sirius is we cover marketing and sales technology categories. And what we found is a few things. So first of all, there are a lot of technology providers who are claiming to provide account-based marketing technology, but it's not really. I mean, it might be things that they do that are somewhat related to account-based marketing, but it's not really kind of meeting the needs as we understand them of users of those technologies. But people are kind of latching on to ABM as a theme because it's so hot right now, and they figure it'll help them sell more. So I guess my first message to the audience out there is that you want to apply caution, right? And start with your business needs when you're thinking about the technologies that you're going to want to employ. Because again, there are different types of account-based marketing approaches that require different technology platforms. What we've also found is there are some very specific areas where we're seeing clients have unique success using technology in their account-based marketing approaches. Now, there's certainly account-based marketing platforms that are very effective, things like Engagio and Terminus and Demandbase and those types of technologies that people are having success with in various ways and frankly improving over time in terms of how they're using them. There's also kind of the advertising side of things, so the digital advertising side of things, who have highly targeted at the account level advertising. And frankly, we find too often when people think about account-based marketing, ABM, that's how they define it, as highly targeted digital advertising. But, that's just one piece, and frankly, not even the most effective piece, but that's evolving as well. But where we're seeing a really big impact is through intent monitoring. So more and more of our clients are adopting solutions to help them understand intent at an account level. And just for anybody out there who is unclear on what intent monitoring is, essentially what it allows you to do is get a much broader, and when I say broader, I mean beyond your own websites, beyond your own clients or prospects activity that you can directly measure, insight into what they're doing, relevant activity that they're up to, kind of what they're searching on search engines, websites and specific pages that they're accessing, content assets that they're accessing. And what you can do with that is basically look at trends, score that activity and behavior at an account level to really understand intent, right? So is there a lot of activity going on around, searches for and accessing content around, for example, marketing automation platforms? That might mean they're in market or about to be in market looking for an account-based marketing platform, right? Or a marketing automation platform. So that's the fundamental idea there. And one of the things that's really nice about it is that this information is being gathered at the account level with no personally identifiable information associated with it. So there are no privacy issues at play here. So, in the context of GDPR and EMEA, for example, we've had a lot of clients become really successful at understanding an intent at an account level without having to worry about implications related to privacy and GDPR. And then what they do with that information is what's really critical then, of course, too. So on the marketing side, obviously, you can be far more targeted in terms of your advertising, your outbound marketing that you're doing, development of content and assets and offers that are targeted to accounts based on understanding of intent. Inside, teleteams can use this information to create context for conversations that they want to have that'll draw people in and hopefully be more compelling. Obviously, salespeople can use this information for their own targeting as well, but also to drive effective conversations. And, I'm talking a lot about that one because, again, this is an area where we're seeing real impacts in terms of efficiency and performance and outcomes that are being driven. So, for example, on the marketing side, we're seeing a lot of marketing organizations be able to actually focus and target much better, which is having an impact on their ability to actually reduce activity and in some cases even investment while driving better outcomes because they can be so much more targeted in what they're doing. The other thing I'll say about it, and I'll kind of compare it to predictive analytics. Predictive analytics is really great. It has a lot of fantastic applications, but we've seen a lot of companies struggle with it. And one of the reasons for that is a lot of B2B organizations don't have the volume of data or the quality of data to look at historical data to predict future outcomes. And that's the difference about intent, right? Intent is gathering real-time data across pretty much across the entire web, not just your own web properties. So that data is much more reliable, and it tells you what's happening now rather than predicting what might happen in the future based on what's happened in the past. So again, a lot of activity there, and I think it's only going to improve over time.
Wonderful. Wow. Yeah, I can tell you can go on about the ABM. So the other piece of ABM, which I get involved with, is targeting to specific people within the company. So having a target list, having figuring out your white space, who you have access to, who you don't have access to, and being able to hit those people specifically.
Yeah, and obviously that's a huge area too, and that's kind of second to intent monitoring in the sense that the ability to target is absolutely key. So, our language here at SiriusDecisions, we talk a lot about demand units, right? So a demand unit rather than a lead. So a lead being one individual. A demand unit is made up of a group of individuals because, as you know, in the B2B world, it's typically not one person that's making or influencing a purchase decision. It's people across functions, several people within buying centers. So you might have, end users at play. You might have more senior executives who are the ultimate kind of power in that decision-making process. We have people who we call ratifiers. You might have CFOs or purchasing people who are involved in making decisions. So understanding that demand units are at play, and all of these people oriented around a specific need that they're trying to fulfill for their business. Understanding that only adds to the need to target at an individual level, because it says, okay, we can't just look at end users or ultimate decision makers. We have to look at all these influencers who are involved as well. So being able to do that effectively is key, but then adding to that, the ability to not just target them effectively, but engage them effectively is key as well, because they're going to have different perspectives, different information needs that are going to help them make decisions or influence decisions. So that creates, a necessity around deeper targeting, but also more in the way of unique offers, unique content assets, and ultimately personalization as well. So that's another huge trend that we're seeing related to ABM is this trend towards deeper targeting and greater personalization to create better experiences and better and more effectively engage your individual targets within those accounts.
Yes, and then I've heard them considered as grouping those targets with different personas.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
So and the finance guy you may want to address differently than the tech guy, the security guy, or woman.
That's exactly right. So and which is really cool because these big trends that are going on, kind of the two biggest ones, are the combination of ABM, right, which is an account-based and account-level approach, combined with what we call persona-based marketing, right? So it's this kind of like macro approach combined with this very granular approach in persona-based marketing. And those personas are so critical. And that's an area of a lot of work for us too at Sirius here, because I can tell you I've reviewed a lot of personas, and some of them are great, but a lot of them aren't really useful because they contain a lot of information that isn't actually information you can use to make a good decision. The critical information in a persona are things like, not just things like, hey, what is their, function that they're in, what is their title level within that function. That's important for sure, but that's kind of foundational. But understanding their role in the buying process, right? So are they like a CFO, where they're going to be looking at it from a totally different perspective from an end user, for example? So that role in the buying process, but also building in things like, what are their trusted sources of information? Where do they turn to get the information they need in order to make decisions and inform themselves? So understanding that will obviously influence the channels to which you're going through marketing, your programs and your tactics. So, what we find is kind of brief, very focused personas are effective, and then also making sure that a shared understanding of those personas exists. That means shared across marketing, but across sales and marketing as well. That everybody agrees, yes, that's what these people look like. That's their role in the buying process. Here are key characteristics that we can use to better engage them and convert them and make them hopefully eventually become clients.
Wonderful. And then you get the whole concept of figuring out what content to show to different people at the different for different calls to action and timing and methods and channels and whatever.
Yeah. Through all this, content remains king. I know it's cliche, but if you don't have good content, you are not going to get engagement. And if you don't have engagement, you're not going to be able to convert anybody, and everything else falls apart. And, quality content is what drives engagement, and that's ultimately what all of this is about.
And it's got to be relevant for that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if you do it right, I call it a double mitzvah. It's a double good deed. You're getting them, that person, the target out there, something that they're interested in that speaks to them.
Exactly.
So it's wonderful. So what does your crystal ball say about how things are going? What is our conversation going to be about next year at this time? How about in 5 years? What is
good question.
Different?
So there's several areas. One of the things that is critical that I think will continue to happen is that account-based marketing. We talk about account-based marketing, but of course it's really account-based go-to-market, right? Because again, that sales and marketing alignment is key. If you don't have a sales organization that is going to market in an account-based way, account-based marketing is going to be very effective. But that's going to extend, I think. Some people call it account-based everything. I wouldn't quite go that far, at least not in the next 5 years. But really what we're going to start to see is things like customer success, for example, taking a much more account-based approach. So it's not only about how you go to market and acquire customers or grow within existing accounts. It's also increasingly going to be about how do you retain customers and how do you create advocacy within your key accounts. So, and that's something that, it sounds intuitive, but it hasn't really happened just yet. Customer success functions still take a very broad-based approach, tend to treat all clients the same way, and aren't kind of achieving that level of personalization. So that's one area that I think is going to be kind of interesting, is this broadening of account-based approaches that are going to increasingly focus on retention, loyalty, advocacy, those types of things within accounts. So that's one. The other that I think is really interesting is going back to intent data. Intent data is great now, but it's still in its early days. So we're already seeing a lot of success. We're already seeing it being used in more and more interesting ways. We're seeing our clients innovate with intent data in terms of what they do with it and how they use it to better engage their audiences and target their work. But we're just at the starting point of seeing machine learning and AI really begin to have an effect on intent data. So as we all know, AI is all the rage right now. Everybody's talking about it. Nobody's really kind of figured it out. It's evolving and emerging right now. But I believe that 5 years from now, what we're going to see is AI being applied to intent data to create an environment where marketers, salespeople, businesses in general are going to be able to gain much, much deeper insight into what is actually happening within accounts and what that means and the actions they should take based on what that means. So that's going to get just better and better over time. In fact, like I said, we're already beginning to see the beginnings of that, but it's very early days. But 5 years from now, I think it'll be everywhere. And, the other thing I think we're going to see happening, and this is already underway, but, when we think about 5 years out, I think you're going to hear very, very little about lead generation and lead qualification. I think everything will be moving much, much more to account level qualification, right? So again, that doesn't mean we won't be targeting individuals within those buying units or demand units and within those accounts, but it means that it's really going to become far more about the aggregate of activity and engagement across multiple individuals that's going to add up to account scoring that's going to be used by everybody to better understand where there's real opportunity and what the nature of that opportunity is within those accounts. So, and that's going to be driven by, again, the increased use of technologies, the evolution of technologies, but also the expanding kind of privacy regulation that is already coming. We've seen it in GDPR. We know that California is about to pass some laws, and that is only going to spread. So people are going to have to really think about, when we think about useful information and data that we're gathering without explicit consent, we're going to have to be thinking about that in aggregate form, right? Yes, we're still targeting individuals. Yes, we're still driving those individuals to take actions and convert and do things. But looking at activity in aggregate form is going to become critical in kind of in a world more defined by privacy issues and regulations.
Wow, that's well said. That's a beautiful crystal ball there you got there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and, beyond that, the other thing, because there is another side to this, just data in general is going to involve. And, one other thing that I should mention here, because to me it's a starting point for any really effective account-based marketing, and I think we're going to see a strong evolution in this area as well, is account selection, right? So if you're not focused on the right accounts, anything you do, no matter how well you do it, and your account-based marketing approaches are not going to work out really well. So I think there's going to be an evolution in approaches there, collaboration across sales and marketing, but also effective use of data, intent data, audience insights to really go further in terms of how do we do a good account selection. I mean, right now, there's kind of three criteria that are really critical. That's obviously kind of one is understanding the opportunity within an account, right? So the scope of the organization, kind of the buying centers that you're trying to penetrate or maybe already penetrated, thinking about things like category spend and share of wallet, are all part of kind of understanding opportunity within accounts. But then there's kind of this element of achievability too, where you start to think about, okay, well, to what extent do we have really deep account knowledge, right, across sales and marketing? Are we armed with the right insights and information to really engage this account and go after them? What about the competitive environment? What about kind of our current relationship? Is it really healthy, or are we going to be facing problems because the current relationship isn't that healthy? And then finally, there's kind of this idea of cooperation within the account, right? Do we have champions within the account? And that gets back to kind of the relationship a little bit, but do we have people within the account who are willing to not only be champions, but to help us do things within that account, and understanding that as well. So I think there's going to be a real evolution there too, because when I work with clients, and the other analysts here work with clients who are engaged in ABM, too often still we see them kind of struggling because that initial process of selecting accounts has been based too often on opinions, and frankly, too often on individual sales reps' opinions about what's going to work and what's not going to work. The other thing I should say is, cooperation being key, not only within the account, but within sales too. So my advice to marketers is think about the salespeople within those accounts, and are you going to be able to work with them? And again, this isn't a ding against sales in general, but there are just some sales reps who are far more interested in being independent operators, believe that they can do it all, don't necessarily want marketing's help. My advice is focus on those sales reps who are going to collaborate and engage with you. And again, I think that's going to just be an evolution in the way marketing people in ABM think about how they select accounts. But it's a really important factor, because if you don't have good collaboration, you're pretty much you have an uphill battle on your hands, and you're not going to be very efficient or effective.
Yes, that's good, and it's natural consequences for those sales reps that don't embrace the ABM thing.
Well, that's the other thing too, natural consequences. That's right.
Well, that's right. And so the best way to show them is all the successes from the other reps. They'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And that'll be the evolution too. So I guarantee you 5 years from now, or whenever it is, 6 years from now, most salespeople will be fully and 100% on board with engaging with marketing around account-based marketing, because they're going to learn very quickly that they have to collaborate to be successful.
I would think so. This is wonderful. So I look forward to seeing you at the event. Is there anything else that you want to share now? Otherwise, I look forward to speaking with you first week of May. Well, I'll post the information about how to get to the event and everything.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. And no, nothing else from me. I feel like I've already said more than enough, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, Bob. And again, I appreciate you inviting me to do this.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it as well. I look forward to seeing you.
All right.
Take care.
Great. Take care, Bob.